22nd. Yeah, so it is just well, I guess the five of us for the next three calls. So, like we said before, we have kind of a loose agenda. I have an idea for a topic today, and I think Rosemarie submitted a question. I didn't check if you did, Mark, or not, but it'll surprise me. Perfect. But let's start with some win celebrations or anything you want to share at the beginning of today's call.
Well, I would love to share my results of the call yesterday with my
Good.
contact at Expedia Group. Very good call, more than I expected. He said the president of the company asked him to have a meeting with him to decide how they can make more vacation rentals accessible. So the president of the company approached him. He's like, Rosemarie, your proposal was so detailed and so good. It makes the business case for Expedia to go forward. He said, I have to cut my call with you short today because I'm speaking with the president today about your proposal. So it was the perfect storm here where we're not pushing it to the president. The president approached him wanting more accessibility in the vacation rental market. The president is the former president of Vrbo. So he was let go from Vrbo to then join Expedia Group, who bought Vrbo. And he was involved when they hired me at Vrbo. So he should know a little bit about me. He may have been in the audience or seen a video or heard the discussion. So there might be some familiarity.
Cool.
There's also a conference on accessible travel summit that's coming up in October in Orlando, and my contact is on the advisory board for that conference. And I said, can you introduce me to the executive director? I'd love to be involved as a speaker and attend that conference in some way and represent the vacation rental market for travel industry. And he's like, in a nanosecond, sent an email introducing the two of us. And then in another nanosecond, the guy he introduced me to said, let's schedule a call next week. So, I'm
Phenomenal.
painting a picture that is hard to believe at this point. It's beyond my wildest dreams. Let's see where it goes. I said, let me keep in touch with you closely. So we scheduled a call on July 17th to find out how those meetings are going. He's supposed to have monthly meetings with the president about accessible vacation rental homes.
So, Rosemarie, is there a chance of you having a call with the president as
Yeah,
well?
yeah,
Okay, good. I was just going to ask how you can take bold action with
yeah,
this. I know it feels like, wow, oh my goodness. And now imagine the other side of the coin, that you are fully deserving of all of this. Like, of course this is all happening. I'm so
yeah.
awesome. Of course this is happening. And then what's your bold move from that frame of mind?
Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready for a conference call with all of their leadership team. The proposal was to get in his hands yesterday
Okay.
and to make the business case and to see. He said, I'd like to get a commitment from the president for X number of dollars for this initiative, for the big package. And then we'll start breaking it down as to what part is yours and what part is other people involved with the technology and the IT department and the marketing department. They're partners. So he didn't know where the meeting would be going yesterday. He said this is the first one of many.
Okay. Wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah,
just you don't have to wait for them. Like, you can keep pushing it forward, and I know they came to you, and it's good, but just, yeah, remember, you can also be in the driver's seat. So I'm so excited for you. This is
yeah.
phenomenal.
Thank you.
Anything from you, Mark?
I was worried you were going to say that.
No, you
How,
don't have to share.
how am I supposed to follow that?
No,
Volunteer faster.
Yeah,
No.
really. Nothing to report after that wonderful introduction to the start. So Nothing too exciting at the moment, I'm afraid.
No, that is all right. Well, this is what I think we should do today. So we have two questions. Rosemarie, your question is quite detailed. I'm not sure we'll be able to. We'll do our best with your question. I actually don't know what Mark's question is yet because I haven't checked. So we'll see what that is. And you guys said, "Oh, Steph, come up with a question for us for today," and so I did. It's a little outside of the box. And so I just wanted to preface it today before we get to the questions and let you start thinking about it. Both of you filled out your end of program forms, and both of you filled out the exact same answer for fulfilling your lifestyle goals. Like, are you living the life that you want to be living? How close to you are you doing that? And I hope that wasn't too confidential to share with both of you, but I wanted to have a conversation about that and see how we can move the needle for you on that question.
Nice. Good.
Okay. All right. So
It's all about financial in terms of I've got a wonderful lifestyle, wonderful environment, great house, great husband, wonderful friends, good health. So everything is fine except the financial side. And it has been because of COVID-19. The speaking industry is on pause right now.
I'm going to pause you on this for a sec, Rosemarie. Well, let's get into a deeper conversation about it, because I suspect that might be true for Mark as well. We'll see, but let's dive into it, because the reason
after the questions.
Yeah, we'll do the questions first, but the reason is there are lots of life circumstances that can and will happen, and we still want to make sure that that number is good for both of you. So let's start with Rosemarie's question here about website. Where should I place it? Oh no, that was last week. Okay, hold on. Here you go. What should be included in the FAQ section of my website to help SEO? Should there be in answering questions for prospects? There are 3 separate FAQs. What speakers website should I look at to get ideas for your new website? So, I mean, neither Michael or I are website experts. Just saying that. I'm certainly not an SEO expert. The baseline of knowledge that I have for SEO is basically, if you can include language on your website that is exactly what people are typing in, then that is helpful, right? I know there are tools to help with that. I don't know what they are. Like Google Analytics, I think, has a feature, and you know, there are different keyword searcher things, and you can see how much your keyword is being searched. I know that there's you don't want a keyword that's so big that everyone searches for it, and there are hundreds of thousands of resources for it, but you don't want it so small that no one searches for it. There's a sweet spot, but I am absolutely not an expert in any of that, Rosemarie.
Okay.
So for me, how I kind of approach business across the board is just being as in tune with your clients as possible. And so with air conversations, when you work with clients, if you find they're asking you questions, then you pop them on your website. You pop them on your FAQ, you make a blog post, you make a video, you literally can just exactly answer the questions that are coming up. And so that's not, I know that's not a specific answer that you're looking for, but that's how I do it. So maybe your FAQ starts with 2 questions, and then it builds over time. Or maybe your FAQ is linked to a whole bunch of blog posts that you've written, to answer more in detailed stuff. David just did an FAQ for a new program that we're launching, and it is like 50 questions long. I swear, it is so long. And I haven't asked him how he came up with those questions or why it's so long. I don't know if it's at all SEO related, but man, it was like, it had taken him, I mean, it's David, so it didn't take him very long, I'm sure, but you could get really stuck into that stuff. And I would just say it can build over time. Would be my advice on that part. The 3 separate FAQ, I mean,
No.
more than likely, well,
When you
no,
say, yes.
no and yes, right? Because more than likely you have a sales page for each one, or you might have a more
Mhm.
specific page for each one, and the FAQs would go on each
Yes,
page, right?
that's what we were thinking, 3 FAQ pages for each sales page.
Well, they're
'Cause
not
that's,
separate pages. They're just on the bottom of the sales page.
yes, right. But we are
Right.
having 3 separate sales pages.
Right. And so the
Mhm.
questions related to that would go there. And some of them might be the same on all 3 pages. That's probably fine. Some of
Mhm.
them might be on your speaker page. Some of them might be on your about page, because if you think about a sales page, I mean, all it is an FAQ, basically. How will this help me? What does it cost? What do I get? You know, like those are basically your subheadings on a sales page. And then there are some other more detailed ones, right? Like,
Mhm.
Michael, did you have a different answer to that? Or,
Well, at first it was going to be no, but then I saw the word topics. So then I, in my mind, immediately thought it depends on how unique the topics are.
mhm.
So that might not be contradictory to what you said, but I think we could get carried away with that.
I would just keep it simple, Rosemary.
Yeah.
Like it's different. You have to know how many people are coming to you through SEO, through website, through like how many people are reading your website before they're contacting you. If the answer is a lot, then you're going to want good, good FAQs, that sort of thing. If the answer is not a lot and they're mostly talking to you first, then it almost doesn't matter what's on your website. Do you know what I mean? Like it matters, but it doesn't have to be nearly as robust.
Mhm. Okay.
And I would caution you to look at other speaker websites, because you probably will get a bit more traffic from SEO because you have such a niche topic. And a lot of speaker websites are super terrible and some are really great. And so if you see one you like, then great. And if you don't see any you like, think about what you would want. And the speakerwebsites.com with Cynthia Lay, again, I'm pretty sure she has some samples on there.
Yeah,
So
she had about a little over a dozen, and I knew 2 of them. So I can
yeah.
always call them if we chose to go with her.
Mhm.
Mark is my web designer, my husband, and he is just a perfectionist. He's already looked at 50 speaker websites and what he likes about this and what he doesn't like about this, and what it looks like on a mobile phone is critical, and how fast it works. That's all he really cares about. And videos are king. So what he's finding out is when you go to a home page, you probably don't want a video playing right away. You want the static image of the speaker rather than the speaker on stage right away. That's what he concluded in his research.
I would
Sure.
agree
Yeah.
with that. I
Okay.
think it's frustrating when a website forces you to look at something. You have your static, and if people want to click on it, which most will, they'll click on it, but not great when it happens automatically,
Yeah.
especially on a mobile.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if you had any alumni that you could recommend that say, hey, Rosemary, take a look at their website for design ideas.
Truthfully, I don't look at a lot of speaker
Okay.
websites. Most people who come into the program, they're not focusing so hard on that because we tell them not to, frankly,
Mm-hmm.
during the program, because it can be a major time sunk distraction. I mean, you're coming to the end of the program and you've done a lot of the other stuff, so it makes sense. But so a lot of the websites I look at are the terrible versions before they've been redone. So maybe you have any on your mind, Michael, but there's none on the top of my mind.
I would have to go into the grad group, and I forgot the names of the people who are doing the best, but I'm sure David would answer if you just tagged him. Could you just share? I know there are several in there that he really touts as great speakers, and I'm sure they have a very quality website, but their names don't come to mind right away.
So should I put this in the Facebook page
You know,
or
in
just
a
or
couple of
email David directly?
No. In a couple of days, you'll be moved to the Momentum
Yes, I did
Facebook group.
yesterday.
Oh, great.
Oh,
I would
perfect.
ask it in there.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, who, like, not even just about to David, just what are some great speaker websites you guys can recommend, that sort of thing, like to look at. And even their own, like, has anyone had their website redone recently?
Okay.
Look at. And if you go in the SPF group, and type in website in the search function, you might actually see that question's been answered. I'm not sure, but
Okay.
and Morgan just posted one in the chat to have a look at.
Oh, okay.
libbygill.com.
Okay.
Is that helpful, Rosemarie?
Yep. Thank
Good.
you.
You're welcome. All right, Michael, I'll let you do Mark's question.
Next
Yeah.
question, if I recall, looks like you're looking for feedback from Rosemarie. Can we discuss the future of virtual speaking? I am getting the feeling that the ability to provide a high quality virtual product will not be optional soon. It seems that Rosemarie has been getting some exposure to that. I'd like to hear more about her experience. Before we hear from you, Rosemarie, what does that mean? The ability to provide a high quality virtual product will not be an option soon? What do you mean?
I just in my research and also listening to David's talk last night, it just seems to be that when we do finally come out of this COVID situation, people will have adapted. We've gotten used to watching TV shows that are virtual. We've got used to doing Zoom. We've got used to speaking through video. And I think a lot of people in the speaking industry are going to realize that there's actually a profitable option there. And if we don't provide a product that serves that option, we're going to be left out in the cold.
Oh, okay. I misread the way you worded it. So
Okay.
another way of wording, just to make sure, is we don't have an option on whether to provide a high quality product or not. We absolutely need to. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Or be left behind.
Do you want to go ahead? If you want to ask Rosemarie your specific question of her, feel free.
I was just wondering if we could open up a general discussion about, Rosemarie, your experiences of doing virtual events and how it compares to doing the live events, and what were some of the technical things that you had to learn to make that switch?
As a speaker, I don't want to host it. I don't want to be the technician. I don't want to be the producer. All I want to do is be the speaker. I'm just the person that's going to be speaking, and I let them do the rest. So it's been through associations. And in the beginning, the associations had not done it before. So I was their first one. So we made sure that we did rehearsals in advance and that we had a script together and we knew who was doing what. They knew what my slides were going to look like. They knew what my questions were going to be, the poll questions. They knew what my cell phone number was, so if there was a problem, they could text me during the session. We rehearsed sharing the screen. We rehearsed breakout rooms. We rehearsed chats. So we had to go through the whole thing because they were new also. But they were willing to put me in and see how it went with their members. They had high evaluations for all of the ones I've done. They had high attendance, more than in the in-person event that they had predicted. In one case, they took a break after my hour. They took a half-hour break so that the audience could go get a cup of coffee or go to the bathroom or take care of something in their home. And then they came back a half hour later and could ask me anything. And it was a very engaging conversation. So I made sure they had a chance to talk, share their experiences, and stay on the topic. That went for 45 minutes. And I think that was an incredible experience for them to get more out of that program than just the hour presentation. As I'm calling new associations, some are doing in-person hybrids, some are still only doing virtual. So there's a lot of things going on with these hybrids right now where Some of it can be registered online and you stay home and watch it, or you can go to the event yourself and be there.
And having gone through the experience of doing both live events and also these virtual events now, at the end of a virtual event, do you come away feeling like, yeah, I could do more of this? Or is it like, oh, that was horrendous, I don't want to do that again?
Yeah, it's so much less travel and wear and tear on my body and expense for the client. And I think I come across the screen very well. The same PowerPoint is given, and the opportunity for them to chat and ask questions and answer mic poll questions. I think I'm getting more engagement because of the tools that are out there than had I just done an hour and then it was over and then they leave the room and go somewhere else.
And I'm thinking too, just the time commitment to do an event like that. I mean, realistically, speaking twice a week would be exhausting. But you could do these virtual events 3, 4 times a week
Oh, you can do them 2 or 3 a day.
and charge the same fee
Yeah.
for traveling across the other side of the country. Yeah. Good.
I'll add a couple quickie things. Number one is I've been being asked lately to speak to the International Coach Federation. That's one of my markets, and the couple chapters that I've spoken to already are planning both live and virtual in 2021 when they were only doing live. So they're finding that kind of supporting what Rosemarie said, that they're going to do both. They're going to find, these associations and companies are finding that, wow, we just opened up a whole new opportunity here for virtual, save a lot of money on travel and accommodations. So I don't think I'm not finding that it'll shut down live. People still like to get together and bond together, but it's definitely the virtual is not going to go away. Number two, I do agree. I heard a little bit on the end of David's presentation when the speakers were talking about investing $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 in equipment. I wouldn't say that's not true. And I would say it's going to take a little while to catch up where groups that weren't used to doing virtual even know the difference between high quality or exceptional, good, and mediocre. And so while I do think it's important, I don't think it's important. I don't personally, this is me, think you need to run out this weekend and buy $15,000 worth of studio equipment. I think that's just an excuse not to take action in landing some gigs. And then lastly, I don't know if any of you guys participated, but Tony Robbins just did a big week-long virtual challenge. Was anybody on it? So you were, Mark?
I was going to do it, and then I, for some reason, completely forgot about it.
Okay, so the reason I'm bringing this up now, it was a couple hours a day for a week. He had 250,000 people register, and he had about 60,000 people attending each session. And so it was interesting to watch how he presented to 60,000 people. And then he announced what he did, in case this is something you guys want to do. He invested $4 million into creating a studio that will allow him to have 5,000 faces in front of him on a big, massive movie screen. So he just announced that he's doing Unleash the Power Within event virtual, I think coming up in a couple weeks. So I think I'm going to go not only to learn from him, but to see how he does it, because he's able to bring the energy, the music, the clapping. I really was observing the way he did an event that felt about as close to being with him as I've seen anybody do. And it changed my perception completely of how to do a virtual presentation. I mean, from standing and not sitting to moving into the camera to moving away from the camera to having cameras behind. And again, this is a whole new level, but it was inspiring to see how it can be done. So
One of the a guy that I follow quite a lot is Tom Ballou. Is anybody familiar with him?
what's his name?
Tom Ballou.
No, I don't recognize it.
He sold a company called Quest, and it's the Quest nutrition bars, and he sold that for 600 million. And now his job is he set himself up a beautiful studio, and he brings in fascinating people from all walks of life, and interviews them. Really high quality interviews. They're all on YouTube for free, and of course, recently he's not been able to do that because people can't come to his studio, and so he's flipped. And the interviews that he is doing are, again, super high quality. I was just watching one with the singer Jewel, and he must have sent her some sort of a photography kit because the lighting is perfect.
Yeah.
It's not, it's obviously not done through a webcam. It looks like a fully professional setup. His studio from his end has a 2-camera shot, one from over the top of the camera, another one from a distance, and then the backdrop is beautiful. And so that's a guy that flipped and immediately invested some money in making his product look good too.
Yeah.
So there's a difference though between people who are doing that where they're selling their own like individual tickets too. And so there's a huge appeal to that, to make sure that your audience like is showing up to watch like a TV show essentially. Right. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Tony Robbins doesn't do anything badly. And so I'm sure he, that kind of thing. And there is a difference though between when an association brings you in to speak to their members. There's just an expectation difference. Truly at this point, I'm not saying, 6 months from now or a year or 5 years from now that will be the case. But for the three maybe important things, they have to be able to hear you. They have to be able to see you. So your sound and your lighting and your video can't be, blurry or like this or whatever, it's got to be basic. Like eye contact. So if you can get those basic things right, that is the most important thing. So for you, Mark, I mean, those would be what I would focus on. I think your webcam itself is okay. Your video is clear enough. But I would try and maybe work on your lighting a little bit, and I would get a microphone. So like this is like $100. I got an arm. It's got an arm. This is my husband's old gaming headset. But it works. So when I'm on a very official presentation, I use my microphone, so I'm not wearing the headphones. But you can hear background noise, that kind of thing. Like. Not even necessarily. Not even. So
and doesn't David have that in the one of the modules, Stephanie? Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
The other thing, just to add to what Stephanie was saying too, and I know you guys know this, but again, just to talk about both sides. The more high tech things go, I guarantee you on my life, the more people will yearn for just simple holding up your camera in your backyard, talking to your Facebook group. From your home and in a simple, low-tech way. And so real, authentic. And so, let's not, again, get carried away and thinking it all needs to go this way or nothing. The more things go one extreme, the more the other extreme becomes even more attractive because it is different. Or, whatever is down the middle is always works.
And the other thing is like the example of Tony Robbins, like none of us have 60,000 people showing up to watch us speak at this point. And if your association can somehow get, or a corporation or whatever is somehow going to get 60,000 people, then you ask them to send you better, like a lighting kit or a media guy or whatever, so just remember the spectrum. But, even just a second monitor can go a long way to have chat on one side. And I've also seen a lot of people starting to do kind of like Rosemarie, actually, like training on how to deliver better virtual presentations. There's some really interesting tools coming out, collaboration tools. Zoom is awesome, but a lot of people don't know how to use the breakout rooms or how to use different functions in Zoom itself. And so just some basic training, I think, Mark, is kind of the first step if you're not comfortable with Zoom or you're not comfortable with volume or that sort of thing.
Right. Well, it's good to know that the $4 million I had laying around, I don't have to invest that in.
Yeah, and just in case my message was confused, I was just presenting an example.
Oh, it's so cool to hear that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you can go watch him and just learn what he's doing and apply it to yourself. Like I learned how incredible it was for him to get off his stool and come walking towards the camera and just I felt like he was literally talking to me, and I made note of that. Wow, that's very cool the way he did that. And it didn't take, $1 million worth of equipment to be able to do that. It was just him knowing how to use his body, and it's pretty awesome to watch somebody like that when they know what they're doing and why. It was even interesting, just real quick. He had all these people up on his Zoom screen, but they're muted. But he'd get, his whole thing, getting people to clap and do this. Well, you can't hear them. So he pumped in applause. And it's pumped in applause, but it's like you didn't care because it raised the energy. Like you felt yourself getting fired up. And I thought, well, that's interesting. We know that's not real applause, but yet it still works. So it's just fun to learn from others and adapt it to you.
It really is. And don't get super stuck in it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Especially if it causes you to be paralyzed. Oh, I'm not there yet, so therefore I'm not going to do my marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not going to be comparing myself to Tony Robbins anytime soon.
And by the way, thank you, Morgan. Some of these names that you posted, I recognize. I know Kathy Perry's does very well. Deborah is newer. Catherine Orford, I've heard good things about. Christy Stratton. So anyway, those are probably some very good websites to take a look at.
No problem. I only went through and I clicked on some, and whichever ones I'm like, okay, that's a good website.
Good.
Thanks, Morgan. Well, should we talk about living the life of our dreams? Speaking of Tony Robbins. And Michael, you can totally help me out on this one. I don't exactly have a planned list of questions or a process that I want to take you through or anything, but I wanted to, I guess, challenge the notion that we can't live the lifestyle that we want, kind of regardless of finances, regardless of clients, that sort of thing. And I get it. I get that if we each had an extra 20 grand a month, lifestyle would be different and that sort of thing. And today, since I know you both are working very hard on achieving that, I thought we could look at more of a mindset reframe. Does that sound intriguing or interesting? Anyone want to, and does that bring up any initial thoughts for anyone or something you want to share right off the bat?
Talk about, for me right now, like Rosemarie was saying, there are many elements in my life that I'm perfectly happy with. In fact, the entire list you rattled off, I would agree with, except for the fact that replace wife with husband. But everything else is fine. Got great kids, great house, live in a nice neighborhood. All these things are good. But there's that sense of fulfillment that there's this avenue of this aspect of my life that has potential that I haven't fulfilled right now. And it's fun to sort of get involved in that area. But as we were saying in the last conversation, put a number on it. What does success look like? What is the end goal or the next plateau? And to sort of quantify it in terms of dollar figures. That's just one way of saying, okay, that's plateau number one reached. And when I reach plateau number one, sit back, take a breath, look around, see what I've learned, establish what plateau 2 looks like, and then start climbing the ladder to that one. So right now I'm sort of staring up at plateau number 1.
That's awesome. Good for you, Mark. That's good that you, I mean, just congratulations on building a nice life with those qualities. I something you said triggered me to think. I kind of think sometimes of life as concentric circles. And like I think of my life as a circle with, I call them the 8 critical elements of life. So family, career, health, money, social, fun, social, spirit, mental. I think I did those pretty quick. And I really try to focus on excelling and being my personal best in each area and enjoying today wherever I am. And I like personally expanding, meaning the circle gets bigger. So instead of this amount of money, I'm earning this amount of money. But that doesn't mean I don't enjoy today. Or right now I live in a beautiful loft in downtown Dayton, Ohio. And it's awesome. And I have a great view. And I'd rather be in a house in the suburbs in Western Massachusetts, right? And so just kind of, right now I could easily wake up one morning and say, oh, I could go spend 4 days in Florida in a nice boutique hotel and swim for 4 days. But it would be cool to be able to do that and fly to Paris, Anyway, that's just my thinking. But the key is to enjoy the current environment no matter what. And it sounds like you guys do a pretty good job of that.
I heard a story, one guy that I follow quite a lot, and one of his stories is he used to be in the music industry. And he and a couple of his friends went to the house of a producer. And this guy's a multi-millionaire. The house was $4 or $5 million house, gold this, gold that, beautiful things, Bentley in the front yard. And they were looking into this house and said, oh, this house is incredible. This guy has everything. And the one guy turned to his friend and says, well, we have one thing he's never going to have. And he said, what's that? And he said, enough.
Yeah, right.
So, and there has to come a point where you say, I've got enough. Everything else is just playing the game. And there's nothing wrong with that. Accumulate more just because it's a fun game to play. Nope. But understand that if you're always pursuing more and more and more and more because you feel unfulfilled, then that's a perpetual game that never ends.
Yeah, it's a tough, can't win. Yeah. And I just want to say, and I totally get the story, but I love the philosophy of it. Who is the person who said, I can tell you what I have that he doesn't? How does he know that this guy isn't? Why because he has a $5 million mansion and a Bentley, is it proven that he doesn't have enough in his own mind, right? Like, I get it though. It's just a matter of personal. Yeah, it's very interesting. How about you, Rosemarie? You got a big smile on over there.
Well, as I said, I've got a wonderful husband, lots of friends, lots of family, a national demonstration home that's totally accessible, beautiful landscape. We have enough funds for the rest of our lives in terms of our savings. My income is a part of that plan because if we live to 95, at some point we will both retire and not have income, but we're both working right now and socking money away so that the retirement plan will kick in eventually and we'll never have to work and can live to 95 without any problems. So we've got that figured out with financial planners. We know we still have to work for a while before that plan will be real. So the reality is I need to bring in X dollars a year, and so does my husband, if that plan is going to go into place. And this is a time of our lives when it's not happening. The income has been stopped. It's just absolutely stopped. But on the other hand, so is our spending. I used to go out and dress for the events that I was speaking at. So there was a lot of investment in clothing and other products to make sure that I looked my best. So I don't have to do that now. I just wear a little t-shirt and a pair of shorts. I have all these wonderful suits and I'm not wearing them except on virtual presentations. and we aren't driving the cars very often. And so they're okay. We're not going to have to replace them for a while. And if we wanted to vacation, everything's closed. So we can't go anywhere. We can't eat out. We can't go to Rome. We can't go on a cruise. All these things were our plans before COVID-19. We were on our way to Italy for a couple of weeks for our wedding anniversary, and everything's gone. So all we do now is watch travel shows every night. And we
Dream about.
imagine we're on the cruise ship. We imagine we're in Italy. We imagine we're in Australia and France and everywhere. So we are putting ourselves there every night for a half hour before we go to sleep, saying, well, that's a place we'd like to go someday. And we are getting our global TSA as soon as they start opening again, because they have the interview process closed down for months. So we're putting ourselves, we've got new luggage, we've got funds in place, we've got time on our calendar, but we can't go anywhere. So we're trying to do day trips, and that's what we're doing this weekend. We're going up to Lake Erie, which is a couple hours, spending time on an island, going for a jet ski event, and also going to look for some new dining furniture for our kitchen, which we think the furniture stores are open again. They were closed during this period, but we've been wanting to replace our dinette set. So that's our weekend at the 4th of July, is have a little mini vacation. We're going to be in a hotel for the first time during COVID, but we think it's going to be okay.
I feel like the conversation's shifting a little bit to like totally different, which is great. And it's making me reflect on what's going on with me is it's almost like, values that we kind of had before COVID. So maybe travel or adventure, or a lot of people, family, we had these like values and really things that were so important to us that have been, maybe not taken away, but certainly challenged. It's certainly challenging to see family now. It's nearly impossible to travel now. And so we're finding new ways to fulfill those values, it feels like. And I know it's a totally shifting conversation, but I'm curious to explore that. I mean, for me personally, travel has always been this thing. And whenever Ryan and I travel, we do all of these like hikes and adventures and stuff like that. And we just realized since having Adelaide, we've just kind of settled into this, like, oh, we haven't gone not even because of COVID, but just like we haven't gone anywhere. We haven't done anything. We're just like, we live next to one of the most beautiful parks in Canada. And we just do these piddly little walks with the dog, and like, why don't we start doing some more like local adventures and that kind of thing. And so we were just kind of trying to reassess how we can fulfill our values regardless of the circumstance. And I feel like almost that's kind of the root of my original question, is like, when you're not living your lifestyle goals, we can look at it financially, but we can also look at it from a values perspective. Does that bring up anything for anyone?
Yeah, we were talking about plateaus before.
Mm-hmm.
There's a popular phrase, and I'm kind of right in it right now, is the third act. And I'm in the third act of life. That the first act was getting up to when you start having kids, then you raise kids, that's the second act. Now my youngest is 21 years old, and I'm in the third act. And the third act is when you have a little bit more freedom, a little bit more, you go off and do your own thing, the complete opposite of your life right now, Stephanie. And that is really why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. I mean, I've had the desire to get involved in speaking for probably a decade. Wow. On a higher level. And I actually attended a few NSA meetings in Philadelphia and came away feeling like, if I'm going to commit myself to this, now is not the right time. My kids were still teenagers. I wanted to spend time home with them. And I know enough about myself that when I do commit to something, I'll be all in 100%. And I wasn't ready to do that while I was still raising my teenagers. Now they're on their own and they're driving me insane. I'm happy to get out of the house and bid them adieu. And so that's the whole third act idea of my of sense of my life right now is where I am, and I'm ready to sort of embrace that and take on the next challenge and see where this one takes me. I mean, you know, I've had some strange plateaus before. My wife and I traveled around the world for a year and a half with a backpack, and you know, the two of us survived off $16,000 for 18 months.
Wow.
7,000 of that was airfare.
Wow.
So you know, we lived off basically $9,000 for a year and a half, and it was the happiest time of our lives. You talk about having enough.
Yeah.
I've experienced it. We lived in tents. The cheapest place I stayed was 30 cents a night in the Himalayas, and so it's not about the money. The money is kind of a marker, and it allows you to have some nice things around you, but happiness and a sense of fulfillment is just what you bring to the project. But that's what I'm mostly excited about. I'm excited about building something right now, and just the challenge. You know, can I do this? Can I pull this off? Just fascinating. It's not about succeeding necessarily. It's about trying to succeed. People talk about, oh, there's no such word as try. Of course there is. That's what it's all about. It's trying. You know, if you know you can succeed, then you set the goals too low. You know, there has to be that risk of failure. That's what makes it exciting. So that's what's motivating me right now, is that sense of like I'm jumping in the deep end, and flapping my arms around, and seeing where this adventure takes me. So.
And that's all about enjoying the journey, right? So there's the value in that for you, right? This adventure, the risk, the challenge, and yeah, that's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Michael, you're nodding a bunch over there. I feel like you're in
Well,
deep thought.
it's funny. I was just thinking, you might notice my head down. When I'm deep in thought, I doodle. And so I'm doodling and thinking, and I love this kind of conversation. So it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I trained for a marathon, and you know, the whole looking back, the marathon, the finish line, the finish line, the finish line. Can I do it? 26.2 miles. And during the run, you know, am I going to get there? What, you know, that whole thing. And then later I was working on my book, and I was thinking about that process, and I realized something you said, Mark, about that time of your life was the happiest you've ever been. The most fun of the marathon was the training. And I hated it when it was going on, or I thought I did. But looking back, I was like, oh my golly, all those beautiful runs on Saturday mornings, meeting by the fountain and going on a run with my team because it was a team. And then on Tuesday by myself, where I thought I hated it, but afterwards I felt so exhilarated. And that's an interesting thing to just think of too. I try to remind myself of that today, when I think I'm not enjoying today, or metaphorically today, or it could be literally today, but try to remember I'm in a marathon training, and how much fun that was when I had perspective and looking back. Then there you go about the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I've done a few long runs myself, and the same thing is you start out at the beginning of the journey, like, oh my God, this seems impossible. I can't imagine pulling this off. This is so exciting. I'm not that person that could do that right now, and yet I'm going to turn myself into that person, and that's what's exciting.
Yep.
And then you complete it. You cross the finish line, and there's that sense of, oh, what now? Because it's over. It's like done. I've got to find something new, something exciting. Yep. to feel that feeling again. You know, it's that struggle towards the goal that is most satisfying. Actually achieving the goal, actually achieving the goal is a bit of a letdown. I years ago went to see a guy talk down in Atlantic City, and he had just come back from riding his bicycle around the world with his brother, and he said the same thing. He said the moment he pulled into St. Paul, his hometown, he said the last mile was the most depressed he's ever been in his entire life. It's like, I can't believe this adventure is coming to an end.
Yep.
And he went on to work for National Geographic and has had a great life.
Well, it's called the arrival fallacy, right? The belief that when you get to a certain point, you'll be happier. Yeah. It's sort of what you guys are talking about, you know?
And is that a term? I have not heard that.
The arrival fallacy. It's like,
Yeah.
I was just pulling up my notes. I recorded a podcast episode about Gretchen Rubin's book, The Happiness Project. And that was one of the big, my show is called Aha, and that was one of the big ahas is the arrival fallacy. I've always said that, you know, it's about enjoying the journey. I always think like, well, Mark was saying before, when I have the big house, when I have the car, I'll be happy. And it's just not true, right? The journey has to be fun. And the same with you guys right now. So I love Mark's reframe. And even Rosemarie, you were saying like, there's just so many possibilities in front of me. Both of you aren't making the money you want right now. And yet your attitude is of like, it's like sizzling, it's energetic. You guys are really, it's like, I don't know why I can't think of the word that I'm trying to say here, but it's just, it doesn't feel like a drag from my perspective. Maybe it does on a daily basis for you, but it's, you feel very energized about the prospect ahead of you. Mm-hmm. It was
traction. There's traction where the wheels are starting to move in the right direction. And if there's a saying about if there's a horse and it's going a certain direction, get on the horse and ride it. And that was on a television show last night I was watching. I'd never heard that phrase. Ride the horse in the direction it's going. And I feel like that analogy last night hit me when I turned off the TV. I'm like, there's a horse somewhere in my life. I need to follow it and get on and ride it that direction. Something's telling me to do whatever comes my way. Whatever suggestions, whatever opportunities are presenting, just say yes and then figure it out later.
Mm-hmm. Shonda Rhimes, like year of yes. Yeah. That
ties to what you said this morning, Mark, when we were talking is, and I'm paraphrasing, if I get it wrong, you can correct me, but once I just book a gig, it'll all start to happen. Like, and I think that's a good attitude, and you're 100% right. The feeling I got from you, it's just like, yeah, once I get this traction, it just starts to feed off itself. And it really does too, like literally, mentally and literally, because one company will hear you talk and like it, and then they'll tell somebody else, and it becomes has a synergistic or exponential effect.
Yeah, I've been down this road before. You know, I've had these experiences in the past, and I know when I started my speaking career in gymnastics, the idea of traveling across the country to speaking to a gym that I'd never seen, to kids I've never met, to parents I've never met, to a coach and an owner that I've barely ever heard of, that was beyond the scope of my imagination. But I just sat down and said to myself, it's going to happen. I just don't know how. And my job is to figure out the how. And that's the exciting part of the journey. Is I don't have to know how at the start. I just have to know in the back of my mind, somehow I'll get there, and I'll figure out the how on the way.
It's awesome.
So anything else you guys want to say about this to make it feel complete, or any kind of intentions you guys want to set moving forward from here?
I think, Michael, when we first talked, you said, what would be the ultimate goal of what you're trying to achieve? And I've said that what I would love to do is, to me, success in this field would be if I was running $1 million company. And I have no idea at this point what that looks like, but to me, that is an indicator that yes, I accomplished something. And whether or not I'll actually get there, I don't know, but that's the direction I'm heading. That's everything. Every decision I make is based around, will that move me towards that goal? As a matter of fact, all the information that you guys put on your websites and everything, it's all down. And this is the front of the cover of the binder that I put it in.
Nice.
And so every decision I make, everything I do, is it moving me towards that? Am I doing that? And if it is, then do it. If it's not, do something else. So.
Yep. Great. Sometimes you have to throw things away that you started when you find out the path is not taking you where you want to be. So yesterday I had 2 conversations with associations. These are meeting professionals. And neither organization had any money to pay speakers. It's like, we are not able to pay you. We can't hire you. We don't have money. If we do get money from our members, it's not going to pay speakers. and we can't get sponsors. So last night I was thinking, there's a sign here. Maybe I shouldn't make any more calls to these associations that are meeting professionals, because right now they have no money to pay speakers. Everything is on furlough and they don't know what the profession's going to be like. And so maybe I shouldn't pursue that avenue anymore. Last night I got that message that 2 organizations told me, we'd love to have you speak, but we have no money, zero. Okay, I told him, is this a good strategic plan for me as a business owner to speak for your association for free? For the last year, I've been speaking for fees, and I still have gotten no referral business from these audiences a year later. So it's telling me, stop making calls to these associations because they don't have money.
Yep.
One of the biggest lessons
Get on the
I learned,
horse where it's going. Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
to say one of the biggest lessons I learned decades ago when I first came to America, and I was coaching a tiny little team not too far away from here. I had 5 kids on the team, and my job was to build this team up into a legitimate competitive team. And there was a kid who was I guess he was 12 years old at the time, and he was the East Coast surfing champion for his age group. We actually have surfing on the East Coast. And so he was a pretty competitive kid. And about 3 months into the job, he came to me and he said, Mark, I want to be on national team. And we were a little team in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, well, that's a pretty big thing to bite off on. I said, maybe let's set the goal of qualifying for states. He'd never even competed in his life before. And but he made it clear to me that was the end goal. So everything we do, you and me, you the coach, me the gymnast, everything we do has to be moving us towards that goal. And he was national champion 3 years later. So
Yep.
yeah, he took me on the journey as much as I took him.
Beautiful. Well, lovely conversation. The pressure was on today. I don't know, guys. Let's Tuesday's topic. I don't know what it's going to be, but let's plan for Tuesday to be role plays. So if you each come with a topic that you want to role play, it could be air conversation, it could be normal sales conversation, it could be proposal conversation, whatever you want role played. We can do that on Tuesday. Sound good?
Do you need it in advance or just as we come on?
If you have any other questions, definitely send them to us in advance.
I can just tell you now, if you could get me ready for the next conversation with Expedia Group, that would be the role play. July 17th is my next conversation with him. So pretend you are at Expedia Group with this proposal to have me do a 3-day retreat here. What questions do you think that those leaders might have for me that I'm not prepared for?
Perfect. But if you guys have any other like non-role play questions, submit those as per usual, and we'll check those out. Sorry, I missed yours, Mark. I always look in the morning, and then I had calls. I didn't get back to see yours later, but yeah. So the earlier you submit them, the more time we have to think about them. So
I sent it kind of late. Sorry about that.
it's okay. Hey, no, it was a question for Rosemarie, so it's perfect. All right. Well, you guys have a wonderful day, a wonderful holiday weekend, and we will see you on Tuesday.
All right. Be safe.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.